And let's see, who are you?
Hari Om,
April?
everyone.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om,
Hari Om,
Hari Om.
Uncle.
Hari Om, Jyoti ji.
Hariom Jyoti
Uncle,
ji.
Uncle, you're not worried about the age of your body, your grandfather, your what? You're beyond this body. I hear all the conversations. I hope you all know.
Uh-oh, we better be careful.
Okay, Hari Om, everyone. Let's start with prayer. Om. 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 यन्माया वशवर्ते विश्वमखिलम् ब्रह्मादिदेवासुरा यत्तत्त्वादमृषैव भाति सकलम् रज्जौ यथा हिर्भ्रमः यत्पादप्लवमेकमेव हि भवाम्बोधे स्थितिर्षावधाम् वन्देऽहं तमशेषकारणपरम् रामाख्यमीशं हरिम् किष्किन्धाकाण्ड मङ्गलाचरणम् कुन्देन्दीवरसुन्दरौ अतिबलौ विज्ञानधामौ उभौ शोभाढ्यौ वरधन्विनौ श्रुतिनुतौ गोविप्रवृन्दप्रियौ मायामानुषरूपिणौ रघुवरौ सद्धर्मवर्मौ हितौ गीतान्वेषणतत्परौ पथिगतौ भक्तिं प्रदौतौ हि नः ब्रह्माम्बोधिसमुद्भवं कलिमल प्रध्वंसनं चाव्ययम् श्रीमच्छम्भुमुखेन्दुसुन्दरवरे संशोभितं सर्वदा संसारामयभेषजं सुखकरं श्रीजानकी जीवनम् धन्यास्ते कृतिनः पिबन्ति सततम् श्रीरामनामामृतम् मुक्तिजन्ममहिजाने ज्ञानखानियघहानिकर जह बस शम्भु भवानी सो काशी सेयकसन जरत सकल सुरभृंद विषमगरल जेहि पानकीय तेहि न भजसि मन मंद ओ कृपाल शंकर सरीस सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय बोलो भाई सब संतन की जय Shri Satgurunath Maharaj ki Jai. Hari Om, everyone. Welcome to our final class for Kishkindakan. I saw everyone went, what? This is our final episode of Kishkindakan. We're going on to Sundarkand next week, don't worry. So we have now nearing the end of Kishkindakan traversed the journey of this Kanda along with Hanumanji. We have seen all of his different prasangas and the beauty of his mahimas and what they teach us as sadhakas to inculcate in ourselves if we would like to aspire to the level of sevaka, bhakta, or jnani that Hanumanji was. If we are to aspire to that caliber, then we have seen what is required and how we can little by little make these into sadhanas for ourselves. Once more, in this final episode of Kishkinda Kand, we are privy to the superior character of Hanumanji. We left Hanumanji last week standing on that shore at Rameshwaram. He stood there and we saw how, from the inspiration of Jambavanji, from the awakening of that higher connection within Hanumanji, that chitta vishalata that was able to happen means that expansion, that mental and internal expansivity, when that vyashti, that sense of individuality expands to embrace the mashti, the totality. And we saw the power of that internal expansion was all based on that love of Bhagavan Sri Rama enshrined in his heart. Only when Jambavanshi told him, awaken and go forth to achieve the purpose for which you have been born. The work of Bhagavan Sri Rama awaits you. That was the point when that Chitta Vishalata occurred in Hanumanji, that expansivity on connection with that Samashti. We see this as our sadhana, that whenever we feel limited, like we are unable to achieve in life, we have to remember that connection to what is really inside of us, the true potential that lays in it, unawakened, and tap into that. And we see how our abilities will just expand. Hanumanji stood there, roaring, they said, like a splendorous golden mountain. And with that great roar, as though affirming his conviction in the goal, that that goal would be reached. Instead, at that point, he shot forward like the unerring arrow of Bhagwan Sri Rama, destined to meet its goal. This is how we must shoot forward in our life, in all of our tasks. When we know that circumstances have come to us due to Bhagwan, and in our execution of these tasks, no matter how big or how small, it is the Lord's work that I'm embarking upon. We saw Hanumanji's amazing strength and prowess at that last point. But the beauty of Hanumanji's character is what shines forth here, because even though now the size of a splendorous mountain, capable of everything, with no loss of humility, our unpretentious Hanumanji now stood in supplication to Jambavanshi. He didn't just rush off to achieve the goal. He stopped, he turned, and he did pranams to Jambavanshi. And he said, O older and wiser Jambavanshi, though in one gargantuan leap, I can conquer the entire distance of this ocean. I can decimate Ravana's Lanka, his entire army, and return victorious even with Sita Ma in hand. I know the capacity that is within me because Bhagavan Sri Rama has initiated this. But even though capable of all of this, please, you tender me suitable advice as to what remains the highest good to be achieved by me here. What do we learn here? Hanumanji supplicates the Jambavanji and says, make clear to me what is the Parama Shreyas, what is the highest good that can be achieved here. that even though I'm capable of achieving the entire task, Bhagwan Sri Rama doesn't even need to cross this ocean. No war even needs to happen. I know in this moment I can go there and I can get Sita Ma and bring her back. No one can stop me on the strength of Ramanama only. But still, even though capable of all of this, and this is our lesson in life, even though we may know that we are capable of doing everything, that does not mean that we should do everything. Viveka needs to be applied in life. Many times in our work or even in our family, tasks are given, work especially. Tasks are there where we know we can do it best, we can do it very well, and we can get it done in half the time than if we have a team to work with. We know because we know the capacity of the team. We know there are those who are at the top level and there are those who are learning, coming up. Similarly, in our families, sometimes, especially as mothers, you're so rushed to get everything done. Don't let the child do it. Let me just finish it. But what happens in that moment? You see, you are skilled and you can do all of it. But when we take over, we remove the opportunity of the other to learn how to master that situation. We take away their opportunity to develop a different skill set within themselves. And had I been the one to guide them and to teach them how to manipulate this particular task, they would have been able to learn it with greater skill due to my own insight. I already know how to do it. Me doing it another time is not going to make me any better. But by me not doing it, I can teach someone else how to strengthen their character and how to develop a different skill within themselves. This they would have been able to do had I not taken over and just completed the full thing. This is a task that mothers know well. And I've seen this with my mother, I've seen it now with my sister in law and my sister also. Easily everything can get done, but so much patience is there. Come, let me teach you how to do it. It's moments like that that I think, thank God I'm a brahmachari. I don't have that kind of patience, to say, it's okay, you did it wrong. Come, we'll try again. And I'm like, it needed to get done. This is the beauty of mothers' characters and fathers also. I think more and more we're seeing fathers doing these things these days also. Beautiful. This is what Hanumanji teaches us. This is what Jambavanji wanted to impart to Hanumanji. And we see it in this prasanga. Though standing there capable of achieving everything in life, it does not mean that I should do everything. Know how to delegate, know how to not micromanage, because it is in that spirit that your team becomes strengthened. This is what makes a good leader at work, and a good leader in your home. And this is what teaches your children how to become good leaders in life. What's the definition of a good leader? How do we know someone is a good leader? We think so many followers they accrue. So many people start off and immediately people are just gravitated towards following them. Look at Puja Gurudev. He began and everyone just rushed after. Look at how this entire organization just mushroomed into something so huge and international. Good leaders are recognized and many want to follow behind them. But the true mark of a good leader, it said, is not one who has many followers. A good leader is one who creates leaders. Our Puja Gurudev used to say this all the time. He used to say, I am not a mule guru. I am not here to take you and carry you like a donkey carries load. I will teach you and then you lift yourself after that. This is a good leader. He teaches and his followers become leaders also. So, should he need to step out, the entire organization can continue to function without him. In these modern times, we see so many spiritual and other organizations that when the leader or the primary guru leaves his mortal coil, the entire organization begins to fall apart. Little by little, over years, the activities just become less and less and fall apart. Our Puja Gurudev left his mortal coil decades ago, and look at how Chinmay Mission is not just functioning but growing and expanding. That is the mark of a true leader. That he produced other leaders like Puja Guruji, like Mukhya Swamiji. Look at the acharyas of our Vedanta course, all of these swamis, their amazing abilities and medha. All because Gurudev was able to produce leaders, and his leaders were able to produce leaders after that. This is the blessing that we have to be a part of an organization like this. And these are the skills that we have to, in reverence to them, say, I need to develop these qualities in myself also. Because I have to stand. This is what truly doing pranams to the Guru is. As Hanumanji did pranams to Jambavanji, as we do pranams to our gurus. Touching their feet means that I want to stand for the same things that you stand for, that I do pranams to what you stand for. That's what the feet are. And in this way, we must live up to what they lived up to. And we must become those leaders and we must create more leaders also in our Balavihars, in our organization. This is what Hanumanji taught us by example. This is what Bhagavan Shri Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, Uddaret Atmana Atmanam. Lift yourself by yourself. Why? Atmaiva hi atmano bandhuhu. When you make yourself into your own best friend, when you make your mind into your own best friend, that mind can lift you out of your troubles. No need to go looking for Vishayas to come outside. I can lift myself now. So this is the beauty of a true leader. Even though capable of doing everything, he knows how much to do, but where to pause. And this is why Hanumanji supplicated to Jambavanji and said, tell me how much to do, but tell me where to pause. Not only did he seek the counsel of other wise ones, another quality of a leader. Don't just think I can do it myself. Even though I may be very intelligent, there are others who are also intelligent. Don't have the ego, the pride so much that we stop seeking counsel from others after we've studied. There are always others who can help us also, but know who to seek counsel from also. Be careful whose advice we take. Make sure that if we're seeking counsel, it's from someone whose sattva is higher than ours, so that we can trust their thinking. Hmm. This is where Hanumanji supplicated to Jambavanji and said, you have had experience in these spheres before. You guide me because even though I know I am capable, there may be some experience which you have which I have not been able to draw on yet. And we all fall into this role in life where we think we know. And you may be an excellent doctor. Why are you giving legal advice? There's someone will come and say, what do you think about this little land dispute? And we start, well, I think. We should say, I have a friend who's a lawyer. Let me put you onto that one. We all have opinions. And you see, the reason for this, we can blame Atma. See, Atma is what? Jnana Swarupa, consciousness only. We have this innate feeling that we are the all knowing. But just like Ahankara blocks of Atma, that knowledge aspect gets diluted in a similar way. That even though we know we should be Jnana Swarupa, the knowledge becomes diluted in such a way that we feel we should know everything. And so we begin expressing, yes, I know. That knowledge aspect of us pulls on us. And therefore, we find it hard to say, I don't know. Because our nature is knowledge itself. So saying, I don't know, feels like it's going against my nature. And if you've ever noticed, it's very hard sometimes when someone asks to admit that we don't know. This is where we have to differentiate between Vachyartha and Lakshyartha, between the I that is transactional and the I that is absolute. That absolute I is all knowing, but transactional I will have its parichinna, it's limited, it will have its shortcomings. When I'm transacting through transactional, I be ready to say I don't know. But because my true nature is absolute knowledge, I want to know. So teach me. And this is what Hanumanji did with Jambanji. You counsel me now, and you tell me what is best. The next thing he did, he said, and I will follow it. Means ego is able to remain under control. That whatever you say, I will do now. Many times we ask for advice and then we say, okay, thank you. Then we go and do our own thing anyway, never following the good counsel. Next step again. So many, beautiful ideas come out of these short prasangas. One final idea I'll share on this. One of the nicest things I find about our culture as Indians and our Hindu philosophy, that before we go off on any journey, before we take any big step in life, what do? We do pranams to our elders. And this is symbolic of what Hanumanji did there. He may not have even needed that counsel of Jambavanji, the advice that he gave. Hanumanji is Bhagwan Shivaji incarnate actually. He knew what he had to do. But Siddhasya Lakshanani Sadhakasya Sadhanani. He had to show himself supplicating to the older, wiser ones, seeking the blessing of the elders before he left to go off on that journey to Lanka to meet Sitama. Respect and seeking counsel from the elders. This is a sign of humility, not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of, even if we think and we may rightfully know better than them at some point, it doesn't matter. You make your ego bend because there's always something that they would have experienced in life that we have not been able to experience yet. Do not neglect their wisdom and the power of their counsel. Later, we'll see where it can actually play a role in our life. Do pranams to the elders. That humility is what will take us everywhere in life. These are all of the qualities of Hanumanji that we see in this final prasanga beautifully coming out. And Hanumanji, we can look at it in two ways. Whether we take Hanumanji as incarnation of Bhagwan Shivaji himself, or whether we take Hanumanji in the role of this story as a Mahatma, as a great being who was there as part of this story of Sri Ramacharitamanasa. In either role, as a great being or as Bhagwan himself, Hanumanji is showing us how we must act and how a true leader acts in order to teach the followers how to perform at this level also, how to evolve themselves to this level. And this Bhagavan Shri Krishna also says in third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. In 23rd shloka there, Bhagavan says, Yadi hyaham navarteyam jatu karmanyatandritaha mama vartmano vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. Bhagavan says, even though I am the all capable and I can do everything, many may ask, why have I incarnated here as Bhagavan Shri Krishna to get all of these things done in this war? Just like Bhagavan Shri Rama, just like Hanumanji here. He says, if I should not engage myself in activities, then man will also follow in my role and not engage himself. I have to lead by example. When man sees me acting, then he will know this is the way he must act also. Lead by example. Bhagwan, even as Bhagwan, will continue to act for our sake. Similarly, also, if you look at Hanumanji not as Bhagwan, but as a great soul that has come as part of this journey with Bhagwan Sri Rama, there's another shloka in chapter 3. 21st shloka that talks about that. It says, this one many of you may know, it's quoted frequently. Yad yad acharati shreshtaha tat tad deveta rojanaha Sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. That yat yat acharati shrestha. That shrestha achara. That superior activity, that superior conduct of the great men in society, the great ones. Like Hanumanji was being portrayed as a great bhakta, a great devotee, a great sevaka in this prasanga. The conduct of the great ones, other men see and they imitate. Whatever they do, saha yat pramanam kurute, whatever they do becomes pramana. It becomes the standard that is meant to be followed. And others in the world follow those as the standard. And we see this from the business world to the scientific world. Those that are considered the great ones in those fields, the younger ones coming up in that field of science, or in that field of business, they look to those and they think, they use these techniques, they acted in this way. I want to develop those characteristics in myself. He worked so hard. This business CEO started sweeping the floor in his company, and then he ended up all the way up. He climbed the ladder. I don't mind. If I have to sweep floors to get in, I'll do that, and I also will rise. From the secular world to the spiritual world, they lead by example. This is how true leaders grow and how they develop that leadership qualities in others also. Bhagwan shows in chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita how is Bhagwan himself or how is a great Purusha. This example is set and why it is set. So, Hanumanji Even though being strong and ready to take on all goals, what lessons do we learn? Be ready, be strong, but seek the blessings of the elders first. First thing. Second, seek the counsel of the wise ones and supplicate your ego there. Second. And third, know how much to do and what not to do. Means use our viveka appropriately in circumstances. Because if we don't, we take away the opportunity of others to grow in that circumstance. It's not only about us, it's about what we can do for everyone around us so that they can grow also along with us. And this is why at that final point now in Kishkinda Kand, Hanumanji could stand there with Ahankara subdued, seek the advice of Jambavanji, and go forth. This is a sign of paramount sattva, absolute purity in sattva. What we all have as jivas is something called Mishra sattva. It's a mixed form of sattva, which is mixed in with some rajas and tamas. And that's why we get deluded. Even though we try to do good things, we try to do charity work, the rajas aspect comes in those activities and a little bit of ego acts up. This is called Mishra sattva. But Vishuddha sattva is an absolute pure sattva that does not allow rajas and tamas to contaminate it, but it prevails over the rajas and tamas and allows them to do their work very efficiently. Shuddha sattva is that of Ishvara, where he says, my rajas go forth and create the creation. My tamas go forth and embody these jivas with their respective karmas, with their respective vasanas, which are all embodiments of ignorance. And you continue your delusion of them until they can find their way out of this delusion. But don't delude me. That's Vishuddha Sattva. Or Mishra Sattva, with that we become deluded by that tamas. With Vishuddha Sattva, we stand apart and control that ignorance. So the tamas cannot affect us. That Vishuddha Sattva is what Hanumanji displays in many of these prasangas. That Vishuddha Sattva is what allowed him, that even though standing there with so much strength and power and prowess, he was able to supplicate his ego and let that sattva prevail over the circumstance. And this is why he was able to show good restraint. This is our next message. Do our duty, but do only as much as is required to do. As Jambavanji had advised him, do this, do not bring Sitama back, do not kill Ravan, but do take the message to Sitama, do bring hope to her, and do create a little havoc in Lanka so they know what's coming. But don't do all of it. So that ability to do and not do. Ahankara sometimes when it acts up and it begins to go on the momentum of the situation, it gets lost to it. Hanumanji did not fall prey to that rajas because of his Vishuddha Sattva. Anytime in life that we're unable to show that restraint, that's our first telltale sign that ego is too strong. That Sattva is not able to act up because rajas is taking over. And ego ahankara is primarily from that rajasic aspect of Maya. So that's that one lesson there. Throughout this prasanga of Hanumanji that we've seen, throughout Kishkinda Kand, there have been multiple episodes where this Vishuddha Sattva of Hanumanji has made itself prevalent. And now, as we're wrapping up Kishkinda Kand, I'll give one or two examples where we can see this coming out of Hanumanji's character. From that first instance where Sugriva, having gotten his kingship again, became deluded by all those bogas of his newly won kingdom. Hanumanji was the one who stood there, Sthita Prajna, unaffected by all of these bhogas, even though having lived forest life for such a long period. He did not get caught up in the luxuries. And at the appropriate time, he even raised Sugriva out of it also and said, it's time to go. That's the sattva that isn't deluded by that rajas all around him. Again, in that episode where the troops were going through the forest, searching for Sitama, and they all began to become restless and despondent. Hanumanji was the only one unaffected by those lower mental tendencies. And therefore, he was the one to lead them to that cave of Tapaswini, Swayam Prabha, and raise them out of that state of tamas that they were falling into, that depression they were falling into on their journey. Again, we see Hanumanji's superior sattva there. And now, finally, in this last episode, where he was able to supplicate his ego, even though so strong and capable at this last point. So, it is at this point now that we begin to see these qualities of Hanumanji, not just as a bhakta of Bhagwan, but as Bhagwan himself, you can see manifesting through our Hanumanji. And this is the point where we will leave Kishkinda Kand with our glorious Veera Maruti, Ati Dhira Maruti, with all his strength showing, shining forth at this point, who stood there on the banks of Rameshwaram, a force to be reckoned with, but yet in his mind, he remained ever Duta Maruti, with the form of Bhagavan Sri Rama enshrined in his heart. Bhakta Maruti, Parama Bhakta Maruti. It is in this form of a perfect bhakta that our humble hero, Hanumanji, stood there on the far shore of Kishkindakand, ready to leap onto the foreshore of Sundarkand as he takes this leap across the ocean to Lanka. It is at this point we will leave this prasanga and journey further into Sundarkand. जय बोले धीर धीर शूर पराक्रमी पवन सुत हनुमान की जय. This is the end of our Kishkindakan journey together. Sometimes I wish I could play harmonium like Swamiji so we could do a little bhajan at the end of this session, to transition into the other one. I'm sorry. Ma, see, Mama, you have to find a harmonium player who can teach me when I come, okay? So that we can inculcate this also. Because Ramayana, you need a little bhajan here and there. Okay, so this is completion of Kishkindakan. What I'll do now is if there's any questions or any clarifications anyone has, then I can take those and we can discuss a little bit about Kishkindakan. If there's nothing, then we can do Mangala Charana at least. We won't enter into Sundarkand today. We'll do it next week. We'll begin afresh. But we can always do Mangala Charana shlokas of Sundarkand because there's still time left. But before we do that, is there any question anyone has? Or any clarification they'd like to have on anything we've covered so far? No one? Nothing? Good. Okay. Everyone is just lost in the bhakti of the katha. Excellent. Okay. I think someone unmuted.
Jyoti ji, I
Come.
unmuted.
Ah.
Um, I think what I was thinking when you asked, it's a common struggle. You kind of gave example of work life at home and the spiritual journey as well. And I know it's um, just that balancing where you say, okay, I understand little more than suppose the folks I'm working with,
Mm,
and um, doing it, the example you gave, like doing something because I can do it much faster than the other person.
mm,
And um, I have tried that in my work at work. It just doesn't work because there is so much pressure. It has to be get done, and it's like, okay, I'm just going to get it done, right? So how do you balance that? I mean, you go to a certain point, then I just give up.
mm. Correct, correct. So that is a good. Actually, I was waiting for someone to ask that. When I had done this, I think I had done this similar in some other satsang, similar topic, and someone asked a similar question. So good, you're thinking, Amma. So the answer to that question, beautifully and easily, in one quip of Gurudev, he answers that. Do your best and leave the rest.
Mm,
This is how sattva comes forth in us. Means we know what's best. Like you said, Amma, you've attended so many classes. You've been part of mission for so long. So you know what's the best thing to do in this situation. You even know how to delegate. So the first thing you do in your circumstance, as I know you would start off with at least, you delegate. You give rules, but this is the first thing though. Give rules appropriate to the characters if you can. So it means now that you know, you can assess within your group or within your children even. This one is more sattvic than this one is more rajasic, that one is tamasic. So don't give as much responsibilities initially to the tamasic one, or give the tamasic one responsibilities to raise him out of his tamas and move him to rajas. If we give him something too sattvic to do, means give him something too intelligent, that tamas won't be able to jump the sattva. So you make him run about. These two are working on this project. I want you to photocopy all, Xerox all of this stuff for something rajasic. Don't give
Yeah.
him a intellectual part of it to work on. Let him do some running. So you move him from tamas to rajas. He'll be more effective there and he won't frustrate you because you can't put him across to something sattvic. He'll frustrate the whole situation. So similarly like that, assess the characters in your team and give work as is appropriate. At least that way you have a chance of having the maximum success. Now, as we all know, with certain projects, it's just not able to delegate like that because there's so much to be done. Everyone needs to take a part of that sattvic aspect of it to split up the work. In those
Mhm.
circumstances, again, as intelligently as possible, you split up. And what we do after that, try our best to inspire each one to do his role appropriately. After that point of knowing that I have genuinely tried to delegate appropriately and fairly, I've genuinely tried to inspire each one to do their particular role. I as the leader, I'm showing the best leadership qualities also to inspire them. After that point, once I've covered all of my bases, then there's a sense of peace within yourself that I have tried my best. And
Mm.
now, if it's not working, then I just need to do what needs to be done. But once I know first that I did try my best and leave the rest, and now this is what has come, and the deadline is now 1 week away instead of 2 weeks away, then I reassess and I take over from that point. Taking over is not a problem. Taking over from the beginning is a problem if we don't give
Mm.
others the chance. But once we've given them the chance and our conscience is clear, then after that, logic dictates the project needs to get done. Then I may need to take over, no problem. Yeah. So just
Yes,
implementing it in the beginning and then taking over is not a problem. Once we've done it the right way in the beginning first, that's all. And little by little, they'll grow and evolve.
it's the process.
Prarabdha also. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Jyotiji, following up on the other Nita's question,
Hmm.
what if you are the recipient? How should you take the approach? Supposing Hanumanji is the other one giving and I'm the monkey receiving, how should I receive it?
Hmm. So good. So you have to use your own meta also, your own intellect. Bhagavan created us very intelligently. It's our job to increase our intelligence also through study and things like this. And so as we study, we also will be able to use our viveka and analyze the situation. I can analyze my senior and I can see, is my senior sattvic enough to handle this well? Or is my sattva a little bit higher than hers? Maybe I might have been able to handle this a little bit better. In the circumstances, you can see the sattva of the one leading is more than yours, or it's a good level of sattva. Even if you can't compare minds to yours, you can still tell they have a good level of sattva. They can lead appropriately. Then have trust in what they're doing. If they think it should be delegated this way, you have trust. If you have faith in their level of intelligence, and you go with the plan initially and see how it's going. First approach. Second part of this is having trust in them and going with their approach does not exclude me from intervening also and applying my sattva. So if there's a way that I have assessed the situation and I found maybe things could have been delegated better in this manner, then nothing is wrong with me approaching them and saying, what about this option also? It may very well be that even though they're very intelligent, they just didn't consider it that way. That's all. And then they take your suggestion, and your suggestion, even though you're the recipient, you end up being the one who ends up delegating indirectly through them. It means you don't have to take over. You can take over through them. This is where ahankara bends, where I don't mind if I don't get the praise for it, as long as the job gets done well. And so if I have to pass this knowledge on to them and they can continue being the leader, but delegate the way I think is best, the job gets done best. And if I don't get the praise, it's okay. This one is the harder one because ego will have to bend under that one. But this is the one that even though you won't get as much merits in work, you will get much more spiritual merits on the other side. Every single act that we do can bear fruit in two ways. Karma gives either punya papam or chitta shuddhi. There's only two results, right? If you do karma in a manner that I want good out of this, you'll get either punya or papa. If you do karma in a way that I relinquish all the results, you get chitta shuddhi, purity of mind. So in that circumstance, where you pass through them as the boss and you give them the ideas, they will get the praise for it. So you won't get the praise. Praise is punya. You won't get the praise anymore. You won't get the punya from it. But having supplicated your ego in that manner, you will gain a lot of purity of mind. You will get the other side of the benefit, chitta shuddhi. Because you may say, what's the point in doing all this and I don't get the praise and I don't get the promotion, I don't get anything out of it and I was the brain behind it. Actually, you've gotten benefits on the spiritual end, even though you don't see the benefits on the material end. So nothing is lost in this world. Bhagwan sees everything. You will still get your benefit, don't worry. So that's the two different ways of approaching this. The third aspect, the one is if you are a leader, I mean, one is trusting the leader. The other one is indirectly becoming the leader, if you can go that way. The third way is if the leader is not capable, you are also unable to get through to them because maybe they have tamasic, rajasic mind, they won't listen to you either. And you are the receiver in a situation where you have no choice. You just cannot change it. You've tried other avenues, and the team itself is such that too many egos are at play and nothing you do is going to work, even though you have good suggestions. That's the point when do your best and leave the rest. What's happening there is this is prarabdha playing off. And sometimes there's big situations where this happens, and you're thinking, I know what can solve this thing. Why is no one listening? This is called prabala prarabdha. Prabala means very strong prarabdha. You just cannot change it. It means Bhagwan has sent this situation to unfold in this unfortunate manner because there are multiple persons within this situation that need to learn this lesson, and it needs to happen like this. And that's why no matter how much you know and you can do, it feels almost like you're being obstructed from doing the right thing. It's because you still do the right thing for you. But if you can't do what can help others, that prabala prarabdha holds back sometimes. Have faith in the Lord after that. The first method was having faith in your boss. The second method, have faith in yourself to go through that boss. Third method, have faith in the Lord when nothing else works. Because prabala prarabdha is very much real. Sometimes it has to go. You will be the innocent victim, the recipient in that scenario. You step back and you watch it happen and you remind yourself you are Sakshi Matra. You are not the doer or the sufferer in that situation. Sometimes that's the only answer. Yeah. But we don't resign ourselves to that final one until we've tried the other ones first. That's why Gurudev says, do your best first, then leave the rest if it comes to this. Yeah. Very nice question, Uncle. Thank you. I think a lot of nice points came out in that one.
You answered the questions that I didn't even ask but had on my mind. Thank you.
Good, good. Thank you, Uncle. Excellent. Anyone else? We have time for one more question. Otherwise, we can wrap up. We only have 2 minutes left.
Jyoti ji, thank you so much for that, for what you told us about what mothers go through, because it really stuck a chord in me, because I think most of us who are in parenting now, we always go through that situation. But it also showed my own shortcomings, I feel, because like you said, it's easier to get the work done. Why go through, you know? But it also is a kind of a reminder to me that I still have to do this, because like you said, in being a leader, they become good leaders. So I think it's a lesson for me that, it is more difficult for me, but I have to do this, because then I see where it's going. Can create unpleasantries for the children, but thank you. I really suck a chord. Thank you.
Good, good. Very nice, Amma. I can see the mananam happening there. She's really internalizing it. So I appreciate those feedbacks. Good. Okay. So excellent. So we have completed our Kishkinda Kand. Join us next week as we leap into Sundar Kand. And it's said in Sundar Kand, that word Sundar, beautiful. Everything is beautiful in Sundar Kand, including Hanumanji. So we'll see the beauty of Sundar Kand from next week. So we close now. वीरमारुते गम्भीरमारुते वीरमारुते गम्भीरमारुते वीरमारुते धीरमारुते गीतमारुते सङ्गीतमारुते धूतमारुते स्तोत्रमारुते भक्तमारुते परमभक्तमारुते वीरमारुते गम्भीरमारुते 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 ॐ पूर्णमदः Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Hari Om, everyone.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om, Mama.
Hari
Thank
Om.
you, Jyoti. Hari Om.
Hari Om,
Hari Om,
Jyoti.
Rachnama.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Satsang. Jyoti.
Hari Om, Nival. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Jyoti ji. Thank you so much.
Hari Om, Amma. Amma, how is everything in Kansas?
Oh, it's good, Jyoti ji. Going good, Jyoti ji. Yeah.
Good. Is it snowing a lot there still?
Yeah, it's 0 outside today. So
Oh.
today, this week it's really, yeah.